Sanbonani. Welcome to the African segment of the People's Food Summit 2025. My name is Precious Piri, the African Coordinator for Regeneration International. This is our installment for this year where we come together as communities of farmers, practitioners, policymakers, and influencers to discuss issues of food. But as you know, food is surrounded by many other issues. So in our installment this year, we really attempted to invite as many voices that are contributing to the regenerative movement in Africa. Before I go any further, let me just say thank you to all our speakers and to all of you who are watching, who will be following our stories. Please be sure to share our recordings, even things in the archives. You can also visit all our files and videos from 2021 when this journey began in Regeneration International. On this World Food Day, we gather not only to talk about food, but to honor the people that feed us and that feed our world, and the people that work with soil, and also people who face the struggles of being a food producer or animal producers, a broader concept of agriculture, including fisher farmers. So we are going to tackle and hear from the Pan-African level, from the Alliance of Food Sovereignty in Africa, where we'll hear so much about the food sovereignty movement, that food and food systems are not only about agriculture, but also restoring dignity and ownership to the story of food to farmers. We also talk to Kenya and Zimbabwe, Pelham Network, which is big national movements that are working with over 60 grassroots organizations that are working and grappling issues of agroecology, as well as seed and food systems and seed and food sovereignty, rangelands and landscape level management, youths, women, men, everybody who is involved in this work. And these guys are sharing so much on what it takes to build national movements, how this builds into policy influence, and how it affects everyday farmers or encourage. And they also have so much work and experience on farmer-led research. I hope you will love that, because now researchers are not only school-educated humans that go to communities and extract information, but research is surely becoming participatory and actively being led by farmers who will own and tell the story, and also continue to design how they can be better farmers or continue to grow in their growing of food. We talked to a colleague and a farmer and an incredible person who's so wise, who lives across East Africa, basically Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. He shares his own personal experiences with how to farm water, how to improve your farm, and also how to bring back the forgotten seeds and foods. We have Masifundise from South Africa in Cape Town, who are working with fisher folks and also talking about fisher rights of people who are in the front lines, and how policies are being influenced to really accommodate small-scale fishers, not to only see fishing as a commercial and big agricultural business. Honestly, whether you're talking sea farming or land farming, the struggles we're facing are the same. Therefore, we found it important to have the voice of fisher farming communities on board. We also hear from Zambia, where we'll learn so much from Grassroots Trust about how they are using holistic management, the concept, the framework, and tools and policy influences, traditional leaders, to really spearhead amazing changes that are being made by farmers to heal their rangelands, to stop burning, and just the importance of talking about soil, where we stand, where we will also find our solutions. It's all in the decision making, and it's all in encouraging ourselves and celebrating every move. So enjoy and have a good time with us today. But also remember, again, to share with your friends, with your family, with other networks as well, because regeneration will take all of us doing our small piece in our corners of the world. There is no practice greater than the other. Only practices that are bringing out the essence of our places are going to carry us forward into a regenerated future. So here's to regeneration. Happy World Food Day, and enjoy our African segment installation. I thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our segment for the African People's Food Summit. I'm here today with our amazing friend and colleague, Charles Tumuhe, who is joining us from Uganda, the beautiful country of Uganda. Charles, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Precious, and thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. So I'll just start by way of introducing Charles briefly. He will tell us more about himself. He's a program coordinator at the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, AFSA, which is a continental network which has many members and friends across the world and across the continent of Africa. Charles brings more than 10 years of experience in Greek extension, training, and rural development. And he has had lots of experience in wisdom from both the government and non-governmental spaces of work. He's currently in the office of the Secretariat of AFSA, where he oversees a lot of projects, including participatory action research and farmer training initiatives for agroecology. And this cuts across several countries. He's well qualified for this. And also he has great passion for it, including holding a master's degree in environment and natural resources. And from what I've known and learned about Charles is that he's a continuous student of this work by learning through other partners and other networks. So we're very privileged and really excited to have a young voice as well, because he's very young and a passionate farmer himself, which we'll learn more about later. So Charles, feel free to share with us briefly your role at AFSA.
Thank you so much, Precious, again. My name is Charles Luanga Tumuhe. I work for Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, which we call AFSA in short. And currently, my portfolio is to coordinate the Land and Agroecology Working Group, which includes land rights, but also healthy soils, working with our member organizations that are so much enthusiastic about where our food comes from, the soil and the land. So I am coordinating projects that work directly with farmers through our local partners in several countries in Africa, but also coordinating research work together with my colleague who joined a few months ago. We have now 3 projects on research, farmer-led research, working again through local partners and universities. So in short, that's my current portfolio here at AFSA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. I know AFSA is usually called a network of networks. I would like to know more about the reach of AFSA. And, for us at Regeneration International, we really consider your work one of the most important networks on the continent and in the world. Why and how do you guys work, and what's your coverage?
Thank you so much. Every letter in the acronym AFSA carries a lot of meaning. So, for example, when we say alliance, that depicts the network of networks aspect, because we identify ourselves as a social movement, not an NGO, not a company, and we bring together actors from across the continent. Now we talk about 47 members, and these are networks themselves who are connected to more than 200 million people. So the members are farm organizations, but also our NGO networks, or just specialist NGOs, international NGOs, and consumer movements. So these represent indigenous people, but also the faith-based organizations, smallholder farmers, the pastoralists, fishers, and the hunter-gatherers, not leaving behind the youth and women groups. Yeah, so we currently present in 50 countries. We just have about 4 countries to cover the whole continent, and agroecology is at the center of our work, because we call ourselves an agroecology social movement or an agroecology network, and we're using this as a tool to attain food sovereignty in the African continent, not food security. So that's who we are. Generally, we work through 5 working groups, which I will speak about as we go ahead.
Yeah, I really like the the notion on food sovereignty and not food security. Do you want to share a little bit why that is very important? Because I think it is very important.
Sure, it is. Yeah, you see, the UN in the past few years, maybe decades, have all agreed that food security has got 4 elements, and that is 1, access; 2 is availability; 3 is reliability; and 4 is utilization. These are commonly known, and everyone is saying once you have those 4, you food secure. But for us, we are saying no, it's just not enough, because even someone who is in captivity will have all those 4, but they cannot decide, for example, what food is brought to them and how it is cooked and things like that. So under food sovereignty, we are advocating for these 6 very important pillars around our food system. Number 1 is food for the people. Food must be grown with a mind that it should benefit the local people, and this includes the local consumers, but also the local producers and other food providers, against the notion of food for export, growing food for other continents. So that is number 1. Number 2 is valuing food providers. We've seen many projects, for example, that are food security projects, but I mean, there is no dignity for the food providers, those who are growing it, those who are transporting it, those who are cooking it, those who are selling in the market stalls. I mean, there's nothing like value to them, be it the price that they attract or even the conditions where they work. It's like, we don't care. As long as I have food, I don't mind. I mean, people who have worked so hard to get this food on my table. Number 3 is food sovereignty is about localizing the food system. And that has a lot to do with local food supply, but also has a lot to do with the local farm input system. So number 1, yes, we must get everything we want from within our locality, or at least our landscape. But number 2, we must be able to produce food using resources that are within our closest environment. That is point number 3. Number 4 is local control. So local control is about the resources. Number 1 is the land resource. Number 2 is the water resource. Number 3 is the seed resource. Yeah, I'll add number 4 as I build on my next point, because the next point, which is number 5, is building local knowledge and skills. And the 4th resource that I want to add under the other local control aspect is having power, control, and autonomy and self-determination over our knowledge system. And we are saying, yes, modern science is good, the agronomic science, the physiology, the environmental science is good, but we must merge this with our local knowledge systems, and we must have control over these knowledge systems and our technology. That is now 5. The last one is working with nature. So many food security projects will only aim at getting food produced. For example, you'll find several hectares of maize, and this is a monocrop. And this is grown on an area that formerly was a forest or a watershed or some very delicate ecosystem. I mean, it's not a problem, but food sovereignty and agroecology are saying no. We must work with nature to provide food and provide other ecosystem services that are very pertinent to our livelihood in general, not looking at only the provisioning services of the ecosystem. Yeah.
Charles, you're amazing. Thank you for that beautiful explanation. What I picked up and which we totally resonate with is it's not only about filling the stomach, but it is about all the other issues that surround the issues of the stomach. So culture, the environment where the food comes from, do the people identify with that food? You know, you are in Uganda and I'm here. And even if you are in Uganda, there are foods that are pertinent to your tribe. And then for me too, there'll be foods that are relevant to my tribe. So you can't look at the whole of Zimbabwe and think that we eat the same food. I think that's the era of the current food system. So I really appreciate that unpacking. And it sounds like a good time to transition to you sharing about the issues that you guys address at AFSA. And I think, you know, as you unpack that, I would also like to know what's the urgent one? I mean, they're all urgent, but then what is the one that you're seeing is really on top of the pile in these days, at least?
Thank you very much. Maybe I will end with that one, with the most critical one. So I'll start with the other five. I will talk you through only 6 very, very pertinent issues. Number one, I'll start with the issue on conflict. You know, many times as in the food production, we look at conflict as an issue that does not concern us. It actually concerns us because there's no food that will be produced when there's conflict. But what is causing conflict? It's the scramble and the fighting over resources, and some of these being food production resources. But some other conflicts are, you know, around food not being enough, like we saw in South Sudan the other year. So conflicts are a big issue. And we're saying, I mean, if really conflicts were to become very intense, then the one way we would survive would be being food sovereign. Yeah, because countries can fight, for example, by closing their borders. So if you're not food sovereign and you're relying on another country for food imports, for seed, then you die even without a bullet. So we need to acknowledge that there's conflict and design food systems that are self-sufficient, that are self-determining, that are autonomous, that are sovereign. That is one. But the other one, which also is a public secret, is the pandemics. We've had quite a number of pandemics, many of them being health pandemics. And, you know, one which is fresh into our minds is the COVID pandemic. Yeah, and I mean, that brought a reality to all of us that, at least in your home, Precious, you need to be able to survive without going out of your home. When the lockdowns were here, it became a glaring fact that I must, for example, I am a farmer, I live on 1 acre, I must be able to sustain myself in my environment. And if that is hard, at least within a village, you must be able to sustain yourself. So pandemics have made the global trade over food and farm inputs very complicated. And all that has made the need for agroecology and food sovereignty an inevitable reality that all of us must advocate for. Number 3, there are only 6, is the corporate control. You know, because the farm input business is very lucrative, and even the food business in general is very lucrative, the big boys, the big companies are not leaving this to anyone else. And I mean, they are creating, for example, food monopolies or a farm input monopoly. For example, the seed. I'll tell you the whole seed that we use in the African continent is provided by 3 or 4 companies, and these are managing all the distribution channels, and they're getting all the profit, huge profit coming from seed, huge profit coming from fertilizer, coming from chemicals, fertilizer, insecticide, pesticide. So all these, the big corporations are in charge, but even the food itself, the food trade. So we are saying we can never sit down and say, yes, we contented when we are not in charge of how the distribution of food is managed, but also how the distribution of farm inputs is managed. So at AFSA, we fight so hard to oppose the work of corporate entities, and we've seen these push their hand into the laws of so many African nations, and we always push back against these very bad laws. That is number 3. Number 4 is cultural erosion. Like you mentioned, that your food in Zimbabwe, the fruits you eat that connect to your culture, to your for example, we have our totems, we have our local recipes. There's a way we eat, there's a way we cook, and that connects to also how we grow the food. For us, when a function is happening, a cultural function, there's that type of food that must be cooked. If, for example, it's a marriage function or a church function or a child naming function, but all this has been eroded in favor of the Western culture. And now today what we see in the hotels, restaurants is the Western recipe, the Chinese recipe, the Indian recipe, the European recipe, the American, and things like that. And it's, food, it's not just one culture that we have lost, but even our language, our way of worship, our way of dress, the way we sing, everything. It's all given it up to the Western and an external culture. So we are saying, no, after we must regain our cultural values, but with a focus on the food cultures. So number 5 is climate. So climate, this is, again, a reality everywhere, in Zimbabwe, in Uganda, in Kenya. Kenya, I went to Kenya a few years ago, and they were struggling with the flood. And this was in the city, because when things happen on the farm, the rich guys in the city seem not bothered. It's for the farmers. But now the flood came to the city and people could not move. We have had floods in Kampala. And everyone, when it gets hot, they cannot sleep. But I want to tell you, climate change is affecting the farmer more than anyone else. Because when there's no rain, you cannot grow your crop. When the sun is too hot, pests and disease are very much. The crops can't grow, even they get stunted. And when the rains are too much, your crops are rotting and the diseases are rampant. So, we are, for example, having the agroecology as a climate action campaign to influence policies around climate and present agroecology as a viable climate solution. The last one, since you said what is the most important, and this connects to to the history that we have seen, we've read about in Africa, Latin America, Europe, Asia, and that's the Green Revolution. Yeah, there's a lot I can say about the Green Revolution, but one is that was a wave that came with huge promises of, increasing productivity at farm scale, increasing nutrition, increasing resistance to disease and pests. Growing more nutritious food. But the reality is we have not scored or even scored negative on many of those, and instead we have seen negative externalities, negative effects happening on our ecosystem, like the loss of biodiversity, the degradation of soils, the loss of our local and indigenous foods in favor of the modern improved seeds and the GMOs. And the oversimplification of the agricultural system. Now today, we have monocultures of only 3 cereals: maize, rice, and wheat. And that is bad for our nutrition. And even our way of farming, all that has been eroded, and we are taking on a new culture of growing food, a new agriculture, and that is very unfortunate. And they're saying, no, we cannot sit back as AFSA and watch. And they're saying, no, let's oppose that. Let's provide an alternative, and that is agroecology. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. I mean, what I know and what most of us would agree is that these are Africa-wide issues, if not global. We spell them here in the context of AFSA because they are relevant to the continent, but I do see that they also interlink with what the global stage and the civil society movements globally are also tackling. And honestly, thank you for spelling out the Green Revolution issue as a pertinent pillar. I think in our organizing around farmers, farmer fairs, seed and food sovereignty matters, we try to bring out, I think, even studies on what are those forgotten foods or what are foods that have been stigmatized. There are foods that have been stigmatized, that have been very important for our diets for years. But you find somehow farmers leaving them to the three main grains that you mentioned. And the three main grains that really have no root in most of our communities, by the way. So I do sense an urgency, really, in us really fortifying the voices of excavating those forgotten seeds, forgotten foods that are going to be extinct if we're not careful. So I think I really like those initiatives. And farmers now are knowing how to map seeds, how to map when did we last plant this. And in relation to the climate crisis, what are those resilient seeds? You find that the seeds that are being forgotten are the ones that do better as the conditions harden. We will not deny that farmers are really on the front lines of the climate emergency. And we really appreciate this spelling out of the issues. And maybe now let me also open up to you to say, personally, how do you resonate with the actions that you guys are doing? Because I know you're also very, very attached to this work. So I want to also hear your own personal convictions. And also, please do share the strategies or the pillars of AFSA while at it. Just share your own convictions and the pillars and how they connect. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to start by saying that collectively, before I go personal, as an institution here in AFSA, we want to see Africa developing. We want to see development, but we are saying this should happen in a way which is just and also equitable, and everything must be done with people, with the person at the center, but also with nature at the center of everything that we do. So we also want to harness and utilize as much as possible our traditional knowledge systems as a continent. And the other most important is we need to regain, we need to take back control of our territory, control of our livelihoods, control of our governance systems, control of the decision-making processes. And like I said, we've got the corporate capture by the multinationals. We need to keep holding these guys accountable, but also holding our governments, our national governments accountable. I mean, we need to live a world that is better than what we found. So that's why we work so hard to influence policies, but also to influence African solutions. We believe African problems need African solutions, and they have to be driven by the African people and everything you're doing to build food sovereignty. And so as AFSA movement, we're building a voice, a single but very loud voice, and clear, with a very clear message and agenda, and we're putting on table solutions that are working. So this connects so much with me. I mean, when I read about AFSA before I joined, I was like, yes, this is the place that I want to be and contribute to this mission and vision. Formerly working for the government, I said, I can make a better contribution to this continent by getting into a space where I can drive an agenda like this, but also my training in agronomy, in agriculture, in environmental science, sustainability, agroecology, all that gives me motivation as a young man. At the cutoff of 35, I am a youth, a young man. Yes. Yeah, so I'm like, yes, I need to do this when I still have the energy. Yeah, but also my personal lifestyle. I love food, and I don't just eat any food I find. I care so much about the food I eat as an individual, and with some knowledge on nutrition, I care more about diversity than. I mean, if I come to your house, Precious, and you serve me only carbohydrate, and I will say, hey, where are the vegetables? Where, yeah, where are the pulses? Yeah, I mean, we need the protein, we need the minerals, we need the carbohydrate. Yeah, we need the oils. We need
And that will not happen in my house. I can promise you, you will have all the local Zimbabwean food.
please serve me that plenty, and that is
Yeah,
what I ask people in my
yeah.
house, that don't serve one type of food. So I value nutritional diversity. And when you come to my farm, I am a farmer, 1 acre, very young farm, which I bought from someone who was not managing it the way I am trying to manage it now. So I'm trying to convert someone's farm, because I bought it into an agroecology farm, which is a long journey, as you know. But on my farm, it's not, line planting, it's not monoculture, it's a diversity of so many things all brought into one. Yeah. And I mean, go this side, you find vegetables, go that side, you find sugar canes, go that side, you find banana, go this side, you find the climbers, you find the pigeons, you have you find my rabbits, my chicken, my pigs, my goats. So it's a collection of things. So this is not a job that I do at AFSA. It's a life that I live as an individual. So that inspires me so much. I think the other thing you asked was the pillars and the strategies, right?
Yeah, no, I wanted to first say thank you for spelling out that this for you is not work, but
Yeah,
it's also your lifestyle.
yeah.
And you're a youth, a wise one, and a really amazing youth that totally proud of. Honestly, yeah, it's been so beautiful just to listen to you. Yes, you can now go to the other piece, but I really wanted to hold the space and acknowledge just the person you are.
Thank you so much. I'll run through this very quickly. And I mean, these are our center of, at the center of our strategy. We have a strategic framework, but we also have a theory of change. I mean, we have already shaped the way, how we want to move, what we want to focus on, and how we want to influence change. So we are looking at 5 things. One is seed. Number 2 is climate. Number 3 is land and soil. Number 4 is nutrition and the food cultures. And number 5 is the youth, focusing on the young voices. Yeah, so seed quickly, and I've already been mentioning about seed issues, how we have lost the diversity of our seed, how we have lost control over our local seed, because the seed breeders have, through laws, patenting laws mainly, taken over control, and now they own our genetic resources as their own. All of us know these resources were made by God, and we found them here and just started using them. But a breeder will say, this is my property. They will patent it, and you cannot use it. You cannot replant it. You cannot sell it without their permission. You cannot exchange it. You cannot, I mean, it's all been defined, how you plant, how you harvest, how you cook, how you sell, how you exchange, how you, all that has to be within the laws, the seed laws. And they're saying, no, these seed laws are repressive. They're not fair. These are resources we have got free from our creator, and we just want to use and live for the rest, the next generation. But companies, I mentioned earlier, have taken over the seed business, and how they have managed to do this is to get into the country policies and laws. And they're saying, no, it should be farmer managed seed systems. If it is supposed to be breeding, it should be participatory variety breeding, participatory plant breeding. Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about community managed seed systems where communities, landscapes come together and collect their seed. They preserve their seed. They store. They exchange. They plant. They eat, they celebrate their seed. That's the agenda we are putting forward. And we have, for example, the My Seed is African campaign that we have been, implementing in so many countries across the continent, which is largely around advocating against the bad seed laws and putting FMMS, farmer managed seed systems, at the center of African development work. And yeah, okay, now there are many. I will rush to the second one. The next one is integrating agroecology into the climate policy space. Like I said, on the issues when you asked me, climate is a serious issue. And not to go back to that talk, but just to say, what is the answer? What is the solution? Yes, we are saying, yes, mitigation is good. It's important. We need to reduce the greenhouse gases, the ozone layer and the things like that. Yeah, but you're saying, how much is Africa contributing to that? And can we instead put on table adaptation as the main agenda? Because we are suffering from a catastrophe, from an emergency, from a problem we have insignificantly contributed to. So we're saying it should be agroecology and adaptation, and we're taking this agenda to the UNFCCC through the NAPS and NDCs, taking this to the AU, we are taking this to even other UN bodies, the CBD, the UNCCD, and the others, and saying the solution is agroecology. It's not climate smart agriculture. It's not GMOs. It's not geoengineering. It's not carbon credits and carbon markets. So, all those what we are calling false climate solutions, we are advocating against them, and we're saying the policy should be right on what solution actually works and benefits the local person, the smallholder farmer. So, number 3 is empowering community voices for land rights and healthy soils. Here we are saying a healthy livelihood comes from a healthy community, a healthy population. And a healthy population comes from a healthy body, which comes from a healthy food. And the healthy food means you've eaten an animal, if you're a meat eater, or you've eaten a crop that was raised from a healthy soil ecosystem. And what does the healthy soil ecosystem mean? It is one that is functional. And being functional, it means it has God's life in it. So the microbial diversity, microbial organisms are living, and also the macroorganisms. So it's a living ecosystem. And we're saying, okay, we need to rebuild our soils to come back to life. And how we do that is promoting agroecological practices on the farm, and largely the soil inputs. We are promoting biological inputs, mainly the biofertilizers and the biostimulants, the biopesticides, bioprotectors. Biological inputs, because these not only help to fertilize the soil, repel the pests, but they also inoculate the soil with the microbiodiversity that has been lost over continents, over centuries of using chemicals into the soil. But we are saying, as I finish on this point, you can never have an incentive, a motivation to repair your land, to rehabilitate or to rebuild the soil ecosystem if you do not have a secure land security. So we also work on land ownership laws, issues of land laws, land security, land ownership, and things like that. That's why we're talking about empowering community voices for land rights. So we do a lot of land rights advocacy, especially defending women rights on land, youth rights on land. So young people like me can access land and do agriculture and do agroecology and do farming. And I should not have any threats of eviction and things like that. Number 4 is mobilizing citizens' knowledge and entrepreneurship for sustainable food systems. So we call this the Citizen Working Group, and this is working on the food, our food cultures, our food cuisines, how we prepare the food, how we eat it, which songs do we sing when we are making and even eating our food. I mean, which food is for which function? Like I earlier mentioned about our, for example, traditional events. So there are foods attached to certain cultural events. There are foods attached to certain tribes, certain cultural groupings. But with the current agriculture, I mean, it's all getting simplified, like I said, to 3 cereals I mentioned earlier. So we're saying, no, we must go back to cooking the way we used to cook, where there was diversity in a cooking pot, where there was nutrition, where the nutrients were retained in the food, but not volatilized through, for example, frying and overboiling. And I mean, these recipes that have come, things like that. So I'm saying, no, I mean, our food and our recipes and our cuisines and we should bring back. That's why we have cooking sessions, for example. That's why we have the My Food is African campaign that we are scaling across the African continent. And we're saying, let's bring in the entrepreneurship aspect in this. So some people can, take on a job in, for example, food cooking, or even providing the local ingredients, and they are doing that as a business. But even the farmers, let them look at this as something that can earn them something, and we support them in the entrepreneurship journey. But at the same time, make sure the local markets are working, because currently the supermarkets have very many faults. But you're saying, no, where you are, Precious, in a kilometer or half a kilometer, you should find a store of food, and it has the diversity of everything you need, because you can't grow everything on your farm. So we're advocating for territorial markets, local market stores. And the last one, like I said, creating a voice for us, the young people. That's the last pillar, the youth working group. Very new working group that we just launched in March this year in Nairobi. And there we are saying, yes, the young people may not be that experienced, they have not been here a long time, but they have something to say. And I mean, they have a longer time. So let's give them a chance to speak. What solutions do they think are working? Let us get them into the policy-making spaces. And now, these 5 pillars, we have put 5 strategies in our plan, how to influence change around these 5 pillars, and how to realize the other vision I earlier shared and the mission. So the 5 strategies that we have, number 1 is knowledge generation. Because I mean, all these things need information, data, knowledge, but also skills. So recently we have created a unit for research, and I've hired a research officer who now sits within the secretariat. But also with our partners, local partners, we have connected each local partner to a local university to do research. Yeah. So, and this is not the usual conventional professor academic-led research. This is participatory action research. This is farmer-led research, where the agenda is shaped by the farmer, because the farmer was the problem, not the professor, not the academician, not the NGO. So these are coming together to form research committees and do research. And this knowledge is making them more confident as farmers, but even the local NGO actors are getting more confident when they test out the solutions and they find them working. But again, we are taking this kind of data to the policymakers with, a lot more confidence, and saying, hey, we need a new policy on this. This is what our researchers found out. Number 2 is movement building. This is a lion we are trying to fight with, or an elephant, or a big mountain, and we are small. But when we come together, we become big, we become strong. So synergy is very important. Collective action is very important. Networking is very important. And we are building this through our AFSA social movement, through our members, the 47 I mentioned earlier, through our working groups, but also through these consortium projects that we are developing. And also through this movement, we develop materials, resources, and share these across our members. And they can use these to go to their governments and present their agenda. Number 3 is the communications and the narratives. I mean, there's a lot said out there on the internet on how, for example, to feed Africa, on how to feed the world, on how to, nourish the population. But I mean, who is influencing all this narrative? It is the conventional, I mean, the industrial, the corporate community. And why they're doing this is to influence our buying behavior. So we make buy their products and they make more money, they make more profit. But you're saying, no, we need also to create a counter narrative and say, hey, no, it's not the junk that we need in the supermarket. It's not the poison that we need to eat. Even if when we are hungry or at a threat of going hungry, we must eat real food that is safe, that nourishes our bodies, that connects to our culture, that does not degrade the ecosystems, So we are doing a lot of communications, newsletters, case studies, videos on YouTube. I'll be sending you some of the YouTube videos. I mean, now we have the podcast, the AFSA podcast that has come up. So all this is to be out there and present a counter narrative against what is put out there. The other one is policy advocacy. So the way we do policy advocacy is like for the many years we've been going to the global policy spaces, for example, the UNFCCC, the UNCCD, the CBD, the FAO, and the others. And then the AU and even engaging with the national governments. And I mean, up there. But you're saying, no, we must come down and also mobilize the base. So mobilizing the base means going to the farm, meeting with the farmer groups, and supporting them to transition to agroecology. There are those who are already doing excellent work, but they need more support to fully transition. So the other last point is on scaling practices, agroecological practices, which is the work we do under the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food initiative that covers 10 countries, 16 Healthy Soil, Healthy Food centers that we have launched. And all these, every day wake up, go to the farming communities, teach people how to do agroecology, support them through the transition, connect them to suppliers of biological inputs, connect them to all the knowledge resources that they need, the extension system and things like that. Yeah, so those are our 5 pillars and then the 5 strategies. But if you have any other question, yes.
Thank you, Charles. That's really amazing. I'm so glad because in the process of explaining the pillars, the strategies, and the issues, you were also chipping in and including the projects that are actually happening in between those, like the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food, the youth movement, My Food is African, the chefs gathering. AFSA is truly a convener, and the markets initiatives, territorial markets. Actually, we have like 2 books that we've written together, right? That
Sure.
On the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food initiative, and they're really good resources. I really also like the massive movement building that you're doing on being engaged in social media. I think people should know where to find the podcasts, that are being hosted by Million. I don't know how he does all those things. And then there's like articles from AFSA that can be found on the website. And people can also follow you, Charles, on your LinkedIn, because Charles writes a lot and he has lots of amazing, incredible stories. Please do share the videos, the links to the videos. We might be able to show them through during the broadcast of this recording. Actually, Charles, before you go, this is going to be aired on October 16th, right? So assume this is World Food Day. And what's your message to the youths and consumers? Just a sharpshooter. Is that a thing like that? You've said many sharpshooters today, but just give us another one.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Precious. In the past, we've been focusing our advocacy work on the producers and the food providers. And we realize, yes, these are underprivileged and going through lots of challenges. And I mean, people don't seem to care so much. But now we are saying, no, it's not just the food providers, it's us, the eaters. So as long as every human being has in their mind that at the end of the day, I am the one eating the food, then all of us have to get conscious. All of us have to get concerned that, I mean, where is this food coming from? How has it been grown? How has it been transported? How has it been cooked? Using which materials? You know, today we have a lot of food poisoning, and we have a lot of NCDs, the non-communicable diseases. This is very unfortunate. All of us have to get concerned. It's not just us, the civil society, or it's not just, say, the academia or the development workers, or even the government or the donors. It's everyone. Whoever has a stomach, and I believe everyone has it, and the mouth, it's an issue for all of us. So let's not commit suicide. You know, yeah, like people commit suicide in this area. For example, if you are a very powerful official within the government and you allow the importation of chemicals into your country that have been banned in another continent, for example, this is suicide. You're killing yourself because someone will buy these dangerous materials, go grow food the other side of the country, and sell the food to you. So at the end of the day, you are the one to eat the poison that you allowed to come into the country. So it's not an issue of I am doing a job, I want to survive. No, it's a welfare issue. It's a livelihood. It's a way of survival for all of us, or the opposite of it. So I call upon everyone, all the eaters, but most important, my age group, the young people, because of the internet and the modernization or the modernity in quotes, people, my young fellow youth are like, no, we want to eat good, and eating good means eat foods with lots of oils, with lots of preservatives, eat from the supermarket, other than eating from the farm or eating from fresh food. So then how do we at household level ensure that our teenagers in the house will have access to these foods that we are calling appropriate, that we are calling nourishing and culturally appropriate? We need to grow these things. Yeah. If you have any small space, of course, everyone cannot grow everything, but if you have a small space and you have children in your house, let them see some of the things growing, at least in your compound. For me, as a person, I don't have flowers in my compound. When you come to my house, Precious, you will not find flowers, but you will find crops growing in my compound. And these crops are acting as flowers, and they're nice, they're beautiful, and yet I eat of them. So let's have this message all around us, even at home level. But also, let's care so much about what we are teaching the young people. Because young people are getting a lot of poison. Poison, I mean bad information. Not only the internet, but even the universities. Yeah. So we need to care so much about what is being told to our sons, to our daughters in the universities. And there's a lot we can do around that. I may not go into that for today, maybe next time. But let's care so much about what these young people are getting exposed to in terms of information, both in school, the internet, but even the environment around our home, including what you buy for your children. Because every day you come back to your home with the foods which you're calling inappropriate, then you're teaching your children that this is what they have to eat. Yeah. If you do not train your children, for example, to avoid oily stuff, to avoid junk supermarket stuff, and you're buying it for them, then they will grow knowing that this is the right thing to do. So let's care so much we, the young parents, but even you, the old parents, and everyone else, that, I mean, we should not drink water and preach wine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charles. Honestly, thank you so much for your time today. It's always amazing to talk to you. So much to learn. You're such a grounded person, and we're really grateful for you, especially because you're also living what you're talking about. So I would like to appreciate you, and all of us really appreciate your time. So we're going to end this recording now. Thank you. Hi, hello again, and welcome to another installation from the African People's Food Summit segment 2025. I am here with an incredible colleague from the country of Zambia. His name is Rolf Shenton. Rolf, hi.
Hi, Precious. Good morning.
Yep, thanks to technology. Technology always has a way of making us not trust it. Today, Rolf's video can't project, but I hope you guys can also see his face from his profile. Rolf grew up in Zambia. He was living in rural Zambia, farming and safaris. He is passionate about regenerative farming and preserving biodiversity. He's the founder of Grassroots Trust Limited, a nonprofit focused on helping communities shape a viable future. They also use and promote holistic management framework to guide the decision making and their work, and all this in hope to, contributing knowledge and experience to the regeneration and resilient income streams in communal Zambia. I've had great privilege to learn through Rolf and other partners from Zambia and across Africa and beyond on a WhatsApp platform. It's amazing how much information can be shared on those. And today we get to learn from Rolf himself and hear his incredible story. Rolf, will ask that you also upload your presentation. I know you have your presentation. You can upload it, and while you introduce yourself and start to talk about your work with Grassroots Trust Limited.
I grew up on the left-hand side of the picture, if you like, the one with the elephant and the big plants and big animals. My dad was a ranger in the national parks, and so we had a sense of how things should be, or what was normal was that. And in my 62 years, I've seen it steadily go to the other side, towards the desert. And that's the basis of what we do. Try and find ways to go back the other way, to regenerate.
Yeah.
Obviously, we worked out with the help of Savory Institute, especially Alan Savory was a friend of Dad's. He was up here in the 50s, also in wildlife department. He was a biologist, and he spent a couple of years here, I think. And his insights were always there. We didn't pay much attention, probably because he was a crazy Zimbabwean, but we are Zambians. But eventually we sort of realized, wow, this guy's actually making a lot of sense here, and he's really helped me to understand what is really important: the soil, the water cycle, the whole of the photosynthesis, the whole way this planet's working, and where the money's going to be, where the abundance is, where the healthy life is, where the wealthy life is, where there's peace, and where we have a viable future. And we're trying to make sense of all the different explanations of environmental malfunction, disease, poverty, conflict, climate change, definitely all is associated with poor soil and ineffective rain. That we worked that one out as well. Is our main problem here in Zambia is just water not getting into the ground, and so we have water flooding off and a lot more droughts, or very quick droughts. So you get a drought in a week instead of a month when it stops raining in the rainy season, and then you've got a longer dry season. Plants are growing less. We just have much less biodiversity these days than we had when I was young, and it's everywhere. So that's kind of the background to why I do what I do. I have 4 kids. I worry about the decline in resources, the population growth. I think we're still doubling here every 21 years. We double our population roughly every 21 years. And so we need more resources. And at the moment, our resources are on the decline. We're fast getting through our finite resources. And at one point, we're going to have more and more conflict over diminishing resources. So for us, it's really imperative that we start regenerating our plants and animals, our water and our soil, so that we can provide our kids the basis for a good future. If they still want to fight, well, that's up to them. But normally people fight because there's diminishing resources. And I think we can see that globally right now. We've got a lot of people panicking and starting to have conflicts over diminishing resources. And there's this rush to control. So we really must work towards abundance if we want to give our kids a peaceful future. So we approach communities. Usually we try and work through the chief, through the traditional setup, because that's pretty well been there a while. It's solid. Zambian chiefs are still chiefs, and they have very strong structures of headmen, senior headmen, advisors at the court, and it's a constant dialogue. I call it a sort of a continuous democracy. It's people are forever, every day, issues are being discussed, and that is the place to get a really good response and mobilization. So we definitely go there. First of all, we'll maybe pass through the local government and inform them that we're going to, see if we can share some ideas in the area about why there's less water, try and understand the soil a bit better. And we do this, I'm sure everybody's seen the experiment with water, the 3 squares. So we've got water on bare land. So we just try and show people, what is happening to the water. And it's very easy to show people that most of the water these days is running off the land. It's not going into the soil. And that's why they have floods and droughts. And that has very little to do with climate change. That is something they can do something about. Climate change seems overwhelming because you can't do something about it. So we say, look, you can do something about this. You can get the water back in your land. You can get your fertility back. So we show people, we pick up some soil from the crop field maybe, or some bare soil, and then we'll go into the forest, maybe even, this is 2 meters away, picture on the right, and there's such a big difference. The visual, of course, it looks much lighter, the dead soil, and the texture, you can see the one on the sand from the field is just running through like soil, like water from your hand. The other one's lumpy, but the smell, I call it the smell of money. And if you smell that, the dead soil has no smell, and the other one smells like soil. So, we get people thinking about that, and then we discuss what's happening, what's their trends, what's their patterns, and generally people are looking at soil is getting less fertile every year, it seems. The water is getting less every year. Everybody perceives that the rains have stopped, and so we try and show them some evidence. We've got some nice long-term records here which show that rainfall hasn't really decreased much. If anything, it's remained erratic as it's been for a long time. So a good year and a bad year. But it's important to get rid of that belief, because really, if people feel that they're victims of something, reducing rainfall, they can't solve the problem. So we try and get people out of the victim mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So, Rolf, maybe to just get in there, I really like the language and the communication bits and the first slide just before this one. We don't exactly, what I heard from you is that we are not undermining the realities of climate change or climate crisis. But the challenge is it's so defeating. I really like that. And I feel like it's so important to communicate that to the world, because it's not like we're saying the rural communities can't know about climate change. They probably realize it, they know it, but spending your time talking about the actual thing called climate change is so disempowering, and makes it feel like a far-fetched thing that can never have solutions. But when it comes to your notion of we have to be out of the mindset of being a victim, like there's this big thing that's coming to eat us up and we have no way out, it builds confidence, and almost like you're taking small bites into a major problem, which has outcomes of resolving the impacts and effects of the climate change in the end. Yeah. I just wanted to really highlight that and the importance of relevant communication to communities.
yeah, Precious, I think that we've been, there's a big narrative in the world. I totally believe climate change will happen. I mean, obviously, if all the carbon and the water is in the air, it's not in the ground. And you see my CO2 and this. It's as you lose biodiversity, you're going to get less carbon and water and other stuff in the air. I mean, in the soil. So it's going to be in the air. It's got to be. Where else is it? I've been in Namibia, and it's just desert, and there's clearly no water there, and there's clearly no carbon. So where is it? It's in the air. And if it's all in the air, it's going to be absorbing heat. And I think what's his name from Australia, says that the water is even more important. That's what's really soaking up the heat.
Water.
So, yeah, the water vapor. If the water's not in the ground, it's in the air. And if it's in
that's
the air,
Walter Jen, I think, the guy that you're talking about.
Walter Jenner,
Walter.
he's brilliant.
Yeah,
I love his shows, and he's really
Amazing.
opened my mind to this thing that, look, if the water's in the air, if the carbon's in the air, I can't see it, but I can feel the water in the air, and it's not in the soil, so I can get it back in the soil. That's easy to explain to a farmer.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Or a communicator, but it's difficult to deal with this carbon thing. It's 400 parts per million. People say, well, and the excuses. I mean, we get people. I get people saying, well, I stopped a guy beating his wife there. I said, why are you beating your wife? He said, it's climate change. I said, no, man, it's another guy couldn't pay his school fees. He says it's climate change. So I think we've given people too many excuses. It's too easy to say everything's climate change.
Yeah.
Look, let's fix our soil. We get the water back. We get the carbon back clearly into the soil. And the more carbon we have, the more water we get, and the less fertilizer we need, because the soils are fertile. And, if the forest is growing without fertilizer, and big animals and big herds of animals survived without fertilizer, why would we need fertilizer? That's a killer. It's really debilitating on your thing when you look at crops, and the inputs are increasing every year. The profits are getting less. Who's making the money here? It's the input companies.
Yes.
The more problems you have in your field, the more everybody make money off you as a farmer, and that's not right. That's not right. We want a situation. And on the livestock, the grass is getting less. The disease is increasing. Security is getting worse each year, because people are getting more stressed, and there's less and less water, and the cattle are not producing because they're not in good body condition. So we go through these things, and we try and help people, understand how to get back if your animals are healthy and eating well and have a lot of water and they're not stressed, they're going to be in good body condition. If they're in good body condition, they'll be fertile and they'll be dropping you a calf every year. And so these are the basic, economic things that we talk about. Not everybody's rushing for money here, so it's not always easy to use in financial incentives, but everybody can see that they need, they want more cows, they want better crops, they want, easier time in the fields, they want less drought, they want less input costs, because that's really becoming crazy. When I was young, I think a bag of fertilizer used to cost a bag of maize, and quite recently we've had fertilizer go up to 6 bags of maize. We've got a new government now. It's come down a bit. It's about 4 bags of maize, but it's still, you have to produce 4 times more. 4 times more maize to get your fertilizer. It's crazy. Yeah. So just go with the flow. God doesn't use fertilizer, or Mother Nature doesn't use fertilizer. So let's just work out how that works. And that's where we're going with the conversation here. And there's mass migration here. The farmers in the south have moved north, and a lot of them have moved 500, 1,000 kilometers north. It's a mass migration going on in Zambia, and this is really disruptive. It's you're moving cattle into non-cattle areas. You're moving different language groups into the north. Some people are even going into Congo to look for more water, more moisture. And it's disruptive, and they live in their good soils. I mean, the southern soils are great, and if you just work out how to get the water into those soils, you've got better soils than the washed out high rainfall soils.
They're not suitable for livestock.
It's not beautiful for livestock. You have a lot of
all-bleached grass with no nutrients whatsoever.
Yeah, and you've got these big forests which really don't have much grass in them.
Yeah.
I mean, they've canopied. There's no elephants left, so there's too many trees. They've canopied, and there's nothing to eat for the cattle. So people tend to then start cutting all the trees, and we're just going back to the same cycle again.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we've got to understand what caused the migration. Why do people want to move? Let's fix the land where we are. Let's get the water to go into the soil where it falls. And that's really what we're trying. We do a lot on context, and we talk about this. How we manage it now is with fire. Mm-hmm. Most of the countries manage with fire, and I'm sure you've seen the radical maps, the fire maps of Central Africa. It's just fire. Everybody is managing the land with fire these days, and if you think about it, that. Before humans came, there was probably very little fire. I mean, we had this big fight with NASA 20 years ago about fire being natural. And I said, well, how would a fire start in Zambia, for instance, in the dry season?
Yeah.
There's no people, okay? There's no lightning in the dry season, people.
No.
So there's not going to be many natural fires. So I think it's fairly clear to us anyway that big herds of animals were the managers of all this. And, the more we burn, water and fire are not friends. They are very big enemies. So the more fire you put, the less water you're going to have. It's kind of simple. Yeah. So the less food you're going to have, the less cover we're going to have on the soil. And so we do these sort of demos. One of the first things we try and do with the community, if they've got cattle or goats or sheep, is put them in a herd, put them in a high density next to a piece of land which was burnt. And, it's quite easy to find. And we'll heavily graze an area, and we'll just say, right, we'll go away and you just watch these 2 patches. Right? The grass will shoot and go green in the burnt patch if there's enough moisture. These days, there's actually not always enough moisture to get those green shoots. But it'll only last for, 10 days, 2 weeks. And then it'll start wilting and go light green. It'll become full of prussic acid. It becomes dangerous for young animals, actually. But on the densely grazed area, it'll also shoot. And so one of the main reasons people burn in the cattle areas is to get these green shoots, and we immediately stop that. We immediately show that they're going to get green shoots from the high density grazing, but those green shoots will last for 2 or 3 months. They'll keep on growing, and that's been a game changer. If we can do that demo in the beginning, then we're home and dry.
Yeah, and I mean, it really resonates with. I mean, I also really appreciate the fire photo there, because I mean, as a person who's been doing land monitoring and stuff, you can also tell the results from a burnt patch the following year and the one that was never burnt. But also the idea that animals do bring moisture to the ground when it's all dry around. And we've tried that where you intently just bring animals to one area that you need. I think one time we needed to sort of take out the mariban, the graying grass, and then we introduced intensely animals every morning in that area. Wherever there was a dung left behind at the root of a grass, there were new shoots, and you could sense that, okay, still this land can still give us new shoots without burning. So really amazing.
Yeah, so I think that's really a key to the first step on getting a community. And we've had whole communities just decide to stop burning within the first year.
It's
The story
amazing.
is so compelling, and especially if you can do that demo. And now we've got a whole province. We've got Southern Province have decided to stop burning, and that is
Wow.
massive. That's half the size of
The
Zimbabwe.
provincial level is massive.
It's half of the size of Zimbabwe, I tell you. And they've all decided they're going to stop burning. And if you look at NASA's maps now, the fire maps on firms, you're going to see a big difference. This picture that I've got here is actually quite old. You can't see it, but you'll see a big gap in Southern Province now, especially in the unfortunately, the wildlife people and the forestry people, the managers, the government managers, they still burn. They burn as a matter of early burn. They think that's going to prevent a destructive fire later on. And we're really arguing with that. On the right-hand side, you can actually see Kafue National Park. It's the most burnt part of Zambia. The national parks are the most burnt. And then the north, of course, is burnt because there's no animals left. So people burn it, but they burn late. If you look at the map, the national parks and forestry burn early, and it leaves the soil bare the whole year round. And
Yeah.
we have a lot of silly things here left over by the Brits, and one of them is this sort of land management that the cattle can't go in the national park area because that's for wildlife, and the forestry is for trees, and the cows and the wildlife can't go in the forest because that's for trees. It's like these stovepipe or whatever you call them. It's a crazy idea the Brits brought, and so we're trying to sort of show the wildlife and the forestry people that look, it benefits your land if the cattle come through here once a year. So let us put this into our grazing plan so that we can come through your land. We get benefit and you get benefit. So that's one of the challenges, or one of the opportunities actually to impact the land and get people to relax about this funny thing. They hate cattle for some reason. I don't know why, but they should love the hooves and the mouths and the dung. And so that's the idea here. So we've done some good demos showing what we're talking about, grazing. There's 3 months later, in September, after the high density grazing, the grass was still shooting green, and there's a nice mulch there waiting for the rain. Beautiful. You can imagine the water just going in on the grazed part, and next door was the burnt part, which is definitely not going to get. That's just going to become desert. There's nothing going to grow there. So we try and do these demos and show people what can
I like
happen.
you saying here, third, fire devastated vegetation, no food, no water, soil hard and kept like a clay pot. Those who know or those who don't, we use clay pots for cooking. Nothing leaks in that thing.
Well, even a brick. I mean, you burn a brick to make it waterproof, and so you're burning a whole land, and you're making the whole land waterproof.
Yeah.
That's not going to help you.
Brick, yeah.
Yeah.
You're concretizing your land. That's amazing.
Yeah. So these are the things people can really understand. They can feel it. They're so much more tuned into the land than I am. So it's not difficult for them to see this. Where you've got a nice bit of mulch there, then you can pour some water on there, and they can see very quickly that's going to go down. We do these demos as much as we can, and that gets everybody. Of course, we can show that burning the field, which has become a habit across Southern Africa, is burning your residues. There's a friend of mine who's doing, cover crops, and then he does a rotation, but he sticks in cover crops. He does a lot of mulch. He's building his soil. It's great what he's doing. And his field got burnt by mistake next to the pickup there. Somebody threw and they managed to put it out. So on that line, they put it out. That's the money. He gets 30 bags a hectare on the top where it was burnt, and he gets 74 bags a hectare on the bottom where it was not burnt. I mean, that is the equivalent of one motorbike per hectare. It's incredible. I mean, that's a lot of money. Yeah. So,
I like how you use things that you can buy with that money.
Yeah, cost of burning. It's a lot of money.
You like
so
one
motorbike, stop burning.
It's really cool.
So then we can also show the difference between grazing and thing with visually. There's often a belief that these green shoots are great, but it's just the green shoots last so much longer if you graze them. And for us, burning is the big thing. We've got a tool we've developed with the help of Astrid, your friend Astrid from Zim. She came and helped train our herders in the beginning. We put this idea together at Tumpancha Mission, where a great family, Benjamin Fura, and his family are helping communities there. His parents ran the hospital. They're doctors, and he ran this little farm school, and he had some cows. And I said to him, well, why don't we put them together and start moving them so that they stop overgrazing? And we did that, and it worked very well. And then we said, why don't we build a communal herd and bring everybody's animals into one? It'll be much easier to manage the area. And it's on the edge of the Zambezi Valley and the Luangwa Valley. It's escarpment country. It's very dry and very hot. It's not ideal country for cattle. You wouldn't normally keep cattle there, but we do. And now we've got.
Sounds like Wange.
Yeah. It's really it's not you. There's tetsis. There's tetsis at the bottom, so we've had to really pick adapted cattle that can survive the tetsis. In fact, we brought one Boran in, a bull, and he only lasted 1 week and he died because he wasn't used to those tetsis. So we've got about 48 owners now, actually, and we've got about 800 cattle. So I think we've just got rid of a lot. We've started a lot of communal herds. We've got 5 communal herds up in Northern Province now, introducing people to livestock so that we can replace the fire. But roughly about 700-800 cattle and another herd of sheep and goats. We've actually removed the sheep and goats from the cattle because the goats were not doing well. They didn't find enough browse. We've got too much forest. So it depends on your land. You can normally keep cattle and sheep and goats together, but in our country, you can see on the top right, the forest is really canopied, and we're reluctant to cut it. So there's not enough browse for the goats. So they now separated, and they graze the steeper parts of the escarpment, the hills. And it of course, it's more expensive to keep them separate. But it's amazing. This herd moves on a yearly migration. We move every day. The crawl moves every day. We put the crawl, like you guys advised us in Zim, to put the crawl on bare ground, and then next year we got much more grass. It's just amazing what happens when you've got a herd of hoofs just for one night. So we've got a mobile crawl, and it keeps moving. The herders are trained, and And this is what we're trying to recommend to everybody. As soon as they can, get bigger groups of cattle, get bigger herds, combine your herds with others, and then you can start, and you have just more land to plan on. And we bring people here once a year for a big thing from all over the country, the region, and people are they're just impressed. They're just amazed that we've got such lush vegetation in one of the driest parts of Zambia, one of the lowest rainfall, and the cattle are usually in really good condition these days. They're twice the size of their parents because one of the complaints here is that I'm sure you have it there as well, that our local cattle are too small.
Yeah.
Okay, and then everybody wants to bring improved varieties from improved breeds from Europe or from Asia, and oh man, it's a big mistake. I think what we've shown here is that 3 generations, and you've got the same small animals that are eating well, and
they change in size.
They're plenty big enough.
Yeah.
They completely adapted. They can handle the tsetse flies, the dry conditions. They can go for a good day without water.
Yeah.
They really drink once a day, and they don't have any problem.
And they're fine with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So just trying to get back that pride in local breeds is one of our big things. We really push it because it really helps with productivity. Decolonization. So yeah, we always try and refer back to nature, and we love these maps, the tourist maps that come out of Serengeti, because they have the months in them, and you can see that most of the animals, the 2.8 million animals in that Serengeti system, most of them move month by month, or each month they'll be in a new part of the Serengeti plains or parks, and that's really the perfect grazing system. So they're going to drop, they're going to graze an area hard, and they're going to move on, and it's going to have a whole year to recover. Of course, there'll be some animals that stay behind, and there's always arguments with me, but the maps show that this monthly movement is there, and this is really important. Disease is a big factor here, Precious, and I'm sure the cost of trying to treat those diseases. It just goes up and up and up, because the more you put medicines in an animal, the weaker it becomes, and the stronger the pest becomes, or the disease becomes. So we've moved the other way. We just say, well, if we move the animals, they're going to leave the ticks and the parasites and the worms behind, and by the time we come back next year, they're going to be dead. So in Mpancha, we've actually managed to stop dipping now. We only really dip for tsetse maybe twice a year. It's really discourages the tsetse when we go in a certain area, which is pretty. It's almost in the national park. So, but for ticks, we don't need to dip because we're just not recycling them.
No, the tick load is like almost eliminated.
Yeah. In fact, I'm worried that we have too few ticks. We need some ticks to just keep the challenge up. Otherwise, the cattle will start losing resistance to the diseases. So we keep an eye on this, and it's illegal. So we've actually brought all the vet people to Mpancha to see this, and we offered them 5 kgs of meat, which we have in the freezer, if they find a tick. So far, the meat's still in the freezer. We haven't done deworming for 7 or 8 years now. There's no need. There is no worm problem. We just leave the worms behind, and we come back next year. They're totally balanced. No problem. So yeah, there's a pictorial that we did on the great thing is, Precious, that none of this that I'm saying is new. This is really ancient wisdom, and I think this is where we we really score, because we can go into a community and say, look, what did your grandparents used to dip? No. Did they used to have any problem with grass? No. Did they have huge herds of wildlife? Yes. Did you have any wildlife? No. So, you've really got a situation where they have to think, wow, they had more cattle, they had more wildlife, they had beautiful grass, they had to be migrating, they had to be moving.
And the wildlife was all over around them.
And there were lions all over, so they kept their cattle together, right tight, man. And they didn't put kids in charge of them. They put the best soldiers in charge of them, the young men with warriors who kept these animals safe from predators and from cattle raiders. There was a bit of cattle raiding going on, and
there was definitely was not a big so I hear lots of stories.
I don't want to mention names around here, but we know who came and stole our cattle. So there's and as soon as you put the herd, all your cattle together, you're forced to move on. They eat everything within about 5 minutes. You just have to keep moving. There's no way you can go back there. Where you were, so you're forced to move on. So you had this natural forced migration. It wasn't only the rainfall or the moisture, it was also just the fact that you've grazed everything. And if you watch animals, and I watch buffalo, we have safaris as well, and so we watch these herd of buffalo. They don't like to go where they've just been. They just don't like the smell of their own manure. They don't eat in their own toilet. I mean, that's kind of a universal thing, isn't it? So today, unfortunately, the bottom picture is the truth. And, this freedom to settle, get out of these big communal living areas. They didn't need to. They feel secure. So they settled all over the catchment, and they got crop fields all over the catchment. Before, the crop fields were really in the suitable soil between the hills and the river. Now it's just crop fields everywhere on the mountainsides, and it's just chaos. And the animals that are going out are picking up each other's ticks. I mean, people forget that a brown-eared tick, the one that gives most of the problems in Zambia, she'll drop down and she'll give you 25,000 babies. And if your neighbor's cows are there tomorrow, or your cows go back there, there's a lot of stuff jumping on your cows.
Yeah.
So you want to avoid that area for at least 6 months. So it's very difficult to do this. And in the beginning, it's difficult for people to see how they could get back to that planned grazing. And eventually we go through that lovely process, which you guys have developed at the Africa Center for Holistic Management. And it just helps them see that actually it is possible to put your animals together. And even within this chaotic settlement, we can move the animals. We can rotate them, and we can get them to move. Yep. So that's the picture, and I guess I'm running out of time. We've got a comparison here between the sort of thing, and it's quite fun. We use people, so if we're at a meeting, we'll get 5 or 6 young men to stand up, and we'll pretend to eat like alone, and we're very lazy eaters. We're just picking out the sweets in the grass. And then we put everybody together, and we're fighting, we're competing. So we try and do a lot of miming. I like miming. I like to show people what
Yeah.
And it helps people learn quickly. High density, pushing the grass down, mulching, getting the thing, eating in the same place every day. All these different things. It adds up to, and it's really easy to explain if you animate it, if you can get up and do these things.
Yeah, the skits, they really help.
Yeah. And we can even walk into the long grass with a bunch of people, and if we're alone, we'll make a lot of footpaths. If we're together, we'll just knock all the grass down and mulch it, and wow, then everybody can see that's going to give us more water. We bring in crops, Precious, because whether it's true or not, but really people feel that they're not making any money off their cattle anymore, and that their crops are the main thing. So we try and adopt different ways of, in a low labor, it's not very easy here. We don't have a lot of young people have moved to town. So whatever we do, we have to do it low labor. So one of the ways is the top right, which is the lozi. It's called kutulisa, and it's from the western Zambia. People do it traditionally, and they move their craw on the crop field through the dry season. And we've just tweaked it a bit. So we've got people to see that it's good to bury the manure after the craw's moved, and just keep it out of the sun. The sun is stealing most of the nitrogen in this part of the world. So burying the manure
How
really.
do you bury it? You put
Well,
just
either plow or hoe or anything. You don't need to bury it deep. It's just to make sure it's covered with soil, and then you can really smell the difference between open crawl manure and buried manure. It's just very different. You're losing, according to our university here, we did some trials, and we're losing 90% of the nitrogen in the open crawls.
No, it totally makes sense, because people don't have enough matter to mulch. They would rather give the former matter to the animals. So I think this is a very good wing to things. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a with Solidaridad and with Mulungushi University and our big umbrella organization ZAB, we've got some trials going on now with to show and to actually measure this and to see how much difference it makes to bury the manure in this shifting crawl system. Then my partner Sebastian, he gets the best yields in Zambia. I mean, he's just a superstar. He's never used fertilizer, but he'll micromanage the manure. He keeps it out of the sun and the rain in the crawl every day. So he only uses one cow for 1 hectare of the best maize in the country. I mean, he's just really efficient. So people have a choice now. They can, if they're prepared to do the extra work, they can compost it down in the bottom right corner. We actually encourage people to make covers over their crawls, and they can compost the manure, and they can get really much better results than the shifting crawl. So there's options they can do.
Yeah, definitely.
But either way, we can quickly move people off fertilizer, and that manure just holds the moisture better. It's just amazing. You don't have so many droughts. It's just wonderful. You can use chickens. The top left is chickens on a moving cage. We've got pigs moving on cages. There are lots of ways to do this, but the principle is to keep it out of the sun and the rain.
Yeah, that's really incredible, Rolf. To see the photos of all the different manures. I think I shared with you that it's nicer to do our interview earlier, because right now I'm heading out to the community. We're doing also bokashi making, which is biofermented fertilizer that reawakens the microbes in an area, so that those who don't have livestock for mobile crawls, as you show on those pictures, can then have access to other forms of manure using other materials. Of course, you'll get a few bags of animal dung from your neighbor or whatever. But I think this is really cool to say, it's limitless. You have chickens, you have goats, you have compost. So that's, just wanted to acknowledge that.
So just trying to get people to see that they actually have these fertilizer factories on their farm and they're not using them properly. So density as well. We're trying to work out the optimal density for cows in a crawl, in a shifting crawl. A lot of people make their crawl quite big, and then the animals all to go to one side, and so you get a lot of manure one side, and so we're doing 1 animal per 3 square meters. That seems to be the right thing. But we'll tell you when the study is finished. The results, though, are incredible. I mean, these are 2 farms. Seb's farm on the left and the neighbor on the right. It was the same field. It's the same soil, same rain, same climate, same day. This is after 3 weeks of no rain, and the one on the left is clearly never had any fertilizer. It's healthy. It's still fine. It's resilient. The soybeans in between there, we do blocks of soya and maize, soya maize all through the field. and there's also pigeon peas, so it's an agroforestry system. But you couldn't believe it's a side by side, two fields side by side, the same field actually. And the neighbor, he uses fertilizer. He gets he's broke, he can't do anything. So it's really exciting that we can change this. This is people that have used shifting crawl in Western Province compared to not. And so, yeah, just to remind, people have gone against manure because it sometimes brings a lot of weeding, and, they're losing all the nitrogen in the open course because they're not bearing it. So they don't really see the good benefit, and it's easier to get fertilizer. But we've shown that if you manage that manure properly, you don't need any fertilizer, and you can have much better results than using fertilizer. So we did the Savory Institute sent people out to do a little film interview thing, and in Itebe, one of the areas that we have, there's 10,000 animals, 380 families, and people have stopped burning, and they've started migrating their animals on the plains, and then upland, on the plains, upland, and within the upland, we're trying to get a better grazing rotation. And it's just the best community that we've worked with. They've just responded so well, thanks to Solidaridad, who've been there also, our partners who've been chivying them all the time for the last 5 or 6 years. And everybody wants to go there now. They've got more grass. They've got just amazing cattle. Their productivity's gone. In the beginning, when we started in 2018, the calves didn't even have enough milk to feed. Honestly, they were losing calves like crazy. Wasn't a blade of grass in the area, and now they've got 2 trucks going, 2 companies collecting milk from there every day. It's amazing. I mean, it's just so this is what's happening, and that's spreading now to 7 other chiefdoms along the Kafue Flats. Yeah, very exciting.
Totally exciting. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So this was their words. Instead of everybody competing for the same grass, the cattle now moves as a communal herd. Every few days they're moved according to carefully done grazing plans. By getting the herd to the right place at the right time with the right behavior, the local grasslands are now starting to regenerate and giving the community productive and healthier animals. Precious, the interesting thing is that just next door to this is a national park, and their biggest complaint is that there's a big regeneration trying to go on, and they're complaining about our cows, and we say, well, just come over and see where our cows are. And they came over and said, wow, this is diverse, and the plants are just 10 times bigger, and so now they're beginning to accept the idea. So now we're working with them to see if the same cows can't come and help fix their land. Yeah,
I think this will be a major breakthrough.
It will be. For me,
people to Zambia.
The wildlife people are the biggest challenge actually.
Yeah, they are.
All this beautiful land, but they burn it.
You can't blame them. It's how everyone has been taught for so many years.
Yeah,
and we are super privileged to have this window and different eye all together to be able to read nature in its patterns, and it's giving us information, and it's amazing.
Well, of course, there were no national parks, and there were a lot of cattle and wildlife. There were on this plain, what you see on this picture, it's about 6,000 square kilometers, and there were about 3 million wildlife. Some of the estimates were actually 9 million wildlife in 1900. But let's say 3 million. There were at least 1 million cattle. There's 2 books written on this. And today we have no wildlife, and we have 250, 300,000 cattle all struggling for survival. So, and the rain hasn't changed.
It's like a quarter of what would be.
Oh, much less than a quarter. It's
much less even.
yeah, it's not even 20% of what we had.
Yeah, sure.
So this is what people can see, and we know that land can support 4 million animals. So we want to get back to 4 million animals. And now the president is behind us because he comes from that area, and he's saying, right, forget copper, we're going to export beef, and so we have a government, we have a bit of cooperation from government now. This is amazing, wonderful.
I mean, to even get a neck turn from the government, it's beautiful. Yeah.
When we've been campaigning for no burning for years, honestly, since 95, since the conservation farming movement started. Nothing really stopped burning until when the president last year said no burning. I tell you, everybody in the South just stopped burning. That's it, finished. Just wonderful. When you can get the big voices behind it, man, then you're done.
And honestly, I think that really validates the focus, and for us to really try and bring the policymakers on board, because otherwise the massive impact that they bring is definitely worth.
Yeah, and luckily they've spent a lot of money trying to solve things with reductionist ways. So, in this area where the picture is here now, I think the UNDP and government spent $7 million trying to plant grass, trying to remove invasive species, and of course it came to nothing. If the original grasses, if the adapted grasses are not growing, then your exotics are definitely not going to grow. And if they're not, there's millions of seeds from grasses, so there's no shortage of seed. Why aren't they germinating? Because there's no hooves and no manure, and they're not those little cups that the cattle leave, to help the seeds germinate. So it completely failed. These projects have completely failed. So they're actually a little bit more receptive now, and they'd say, okay, well, yeah. Anyway, the farmers are definitely convinced, and now for 300 kilometers of this plain, we've got 7 communities, big communities, the most wealthy cattle communities in Zambia. They've all stopped burning, and they're all starting to move their cattle. It's going to take a little time before we get a proper grazing plan, ideal grazing plan going. But I tell you, it's already made such a big difference.
Yeah, to be honest, also, with communal spaces, just one little turn towards regeneration brings amazing results, and we always refine as we go. Also,
Yes.
we never really arrive because it's a continuous learning and growing process.
Yeah, so I think we've we love the savory system, the planning system. We've just done a course here. Elias and Vianney came up.
Ah, yes, I remember. Oh, they were with you guys.
Yeah, and I was there for
Nice.
2 weeks with them, and it's so complicated. Honestly, it's such a huge process. I can't do that with communities. So we try to simplify it, get the principles, get the thing moving. And then as time goes by, we can go deeper into it, And
I applaud you for acknowledging that, and also for realizing that it's also not a punishment, but it's good to get the principles and slowly get, maybe if you have younger people, they'll start diving deeper. But in the end, it's a growth process, and when you get more comfortable with it, you are better off at aligning it to your context. So that's really nice.
Yeah. So I think what we've sort of we've gone that route, and it's the same thing. It's just going deeper levels. Yes.
Yeah.
Very useful tool. I cannot get rid of holistic management. It's the best tool I've ever had in my head, but
Amazing.
I can't download that to everybody in immediate. Even in the first 3 years, I can't. I can just do the basics, and then we go deeper. So we try and show the benefits of communal herds. You got less herders. The kids can go back to school. The bulls you need less bulls. We only have 5 or 6 bulls in up to 700, 800 animals. And so we can have good high quality bulls. We can choose them properly. They're easily managed with all the cows. So there's less bulls per cow. Fencing is not required. So all that fighting for, everybody spending huge amounts of money from the community on fencing, you don't need it. You just need one mobile fence maybe to keep them at night. And sometimes in the day we use a mobile crawl. And you share the costs. It's much cheaper to share costs than everybody doing in small containers, their own dip or their own medicines. The land becomes bigger. People say, oh, we don't have enough land. Well, immediately you put the animals together on one corner, everything else is growing. So immediately you have more land. So we say, well, we're going to create more land. And people think we're joking. After a couple of years, they realize what we're talking about. We've created more land. The courts, the traditional courts are full of what we call mulando, crops.
Yeah.
Crop conflicts. It's constant. And animals are being locked up in crawls all the crop season because they don't have enough herders to let them out, and so cattle don't even put on weight in the wet season. Many owners means you can really start interesting things. So we've got insurance companies now coming to us and say, okay, looks like you've got a much better system. We can actually give you a better rate of insurance. We can once the animals are insured, we can start the banking system so people can borrow against their cattle collateral. And they won't deal with individuals, but they will deal with communities. And this is where we're really starting to get interesting things going now, big scale. So you can really start seeing that people don't need land. They can, as long as the community can see that they've got too much grass. Very soon they have too much grass and not enough animals. So they can start selling animals to outsiders, people in New York or London. They can own animals in a communal herd, and they don't have to be there. And the community can get paid for looking after the animals and for the grass. So there's a business here. The marketing is much easier if you have all your animals together. You can attract the buyers instead of them, walking 50 kilometers with one animal when you need school fees, and by the time you get there, it's dead. So it's easy to explain lots of advantages. I'm taking too long here, I know, but there's just a little bit.
Amazing, Rolf. It's okay. We have a few more minutes and we can wrap it up.
You can edit out what you don't want. So yeah, that's the little process. There's just a summary of it. We try and follow your advice to do a wet season plan and a dry season plan because they're very, very different. And the mapping really helps. We just put a big sheet of paper up. We join a couple of those big sheets or 4 of them, and then we have different color pens, and everybody starts marking out all the bits and pieces on their area, the water, the grazing areas, the houses, the crop fields, the rivers, the hills. And bit by bit, it's just amazing what that process does. It's so easy, actually. Once people can see it, then they realize, oh no, of course the animals should be there this time of year. And then, this time of year, they should be there. So that planning process, once you break it up into putting all the information in one space, it just becomes so obvious to everybody. It's lovely. It simplifies things. Simplifies the complexity. Yeah, and we love Sarah Savory because she's come up with this, and it's just that little reminder of what we're all trying to do, how to make decisions, Keep in mind the better life that you want. We call it Canaan. Looking for
Utopia.
Yeah, utopia. Yeah. How do we get back to Canaan? So that's what it is about. So that's really what I had to say. Thank you so much.
Rolf, this was super amazing. Honestly, couldn't thank you enough. So generous with this amazing information and a very effective way of communicating a seemingly difficult content and information. And this will, I feel like, will really keep going for a long time, because this was amazing.
Wow, that's very nice of you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for rolling off at 6 a.m. This has been
No,
so cool.
I'm an
Really
early
looking
bird.
forward-
This was late for me, actually.
Yeah. No,
Thanks,
thank you
Precious.
a lot. Yeah, cheers, Rolf.
Thank you so much for.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another installation from the African People's Food Summit segment. It is World Food Day, and in Africa, we have been tackling lots of different angles of the food systems transformation, from seeds, food, farmers as researchers, farmers as people with wisdom and all the science, farmers and as landscape healers. We're talking grasslands, livestock management, because it all builds into the food systems. Today, I have a colleague from Masifundise who has also recently become a friend. When we met, it was love at first sight. And her name is Carmen Mannarino, who is acting co-director and program manager of Masifundise Trust, Development Trust in Cape Town, South Africa. Carmen is going to indulge us on the work that they do, but also another layer. So it'll be broad, but also adding a very critical layer of some of the marginalized groups of people, which is fisher folks or fishing communities or oceans people. So this is a beautiful addition to our installation this year, and I think it really broadens the horizon. We're only scratching the surface. There's so much work and so much to tell, but for today, this is where we are. Carmen, hi.
Hi, hello, Precious, and good
Yeah.
day, everyone. Wishing everyone a powerful World Fisheries Days, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, Carmen, I am just inviting you to share a little bit more about yourself, if you like, and also just some quick, nice facts, like how did you even end up with Masfundise? What is this work meaning to you? And also indulge us in Masfundise's core work.
Yes. Okay, so my name is Carmen. I'm originally from Italy. I was born and raised in the south of Italy in a fishing community myself. Although fishing communities in the Mediterranean look a little bit different from what they look like here in South Africa. But so throughout my studies, I was always interested in issues related to food justice, food sovereignty, and then also looking at how food sovereignty and food justice are often challenged by processes of land grabbing and ocean grabbing. So this interest during my study brought me together with other things in life. They brought me to South Africa, to Masifundise in 2015, where I did an internship then. And yes, the work here with fishing communities really captured my life in a sense, and I have been here since. And grow into the organization. So in terms of Masifundise has been around for a long time. It's actually an organization that is 40 years old. But in the 80s, the focus of the organization, while apartheid was still the reality in South Africa, was on supporting adult education for marginalized groups, and especially Black people in the townships. So this focus was already very much about justice and access and education. And when this function that Masifundise was playing was sort of incorporated into the new functions of the post-apartheid government, Masifundise started to look at what are the issues that we are still taking with us in the new democratic era, where we have seen a lot of transformation, we have seen a lot of processes to ensure redistribution or at least access for marginalized communities. And it became clear that there was a gap when it came to coastal rural fishing communities. And that is really where Masifundise started to work in this area. In particular, a lot of our work for many years has focused on the struggle for recognition that the fishing communities had. South Africa, I think still today, and as a result of the history of the country, has a very corporatized food system where very few actors are playing a big role in shaping the way people access food. And this was true also in the context of fisheries, where before the 90s, but then also through the reforms in the 90s in terms of the legislation regulating fisheries, there was really only recognition of commercial fisheries as a category, recreational fisheries, and subsistence fisheries. But when we talk about subsistence fisheries, really this was limited to the idea of being able to have a permit to catch very little fish and not to be able to sell this fish. And so this reform that was the Marine Living Resources Act of 1998 essentially left out of the picture the vast majority of people in coastal communities, thousands of people. In fact, we estimate that at least 80,000 people depend on fisheries, small-scale fisheries, both in inland and coastal communities. And these people were essentially being left out from the dispensation under the Marine Living Resources Act. And so that was what really was the entry point for Masifundise to start working with fishing communities with the idea of supporting organization building and movement building to support fishers to use their voice to demand their rights. The rights to food, the rights to livelihood, and the right to equality. And so Masifundise, together with the community-based organization Coastal Links, which is formed by fishers communities from all over the coastlines of South Africa, has been taking on the struggle to say we need to have recognition, and we have to have recognition in the terms that we put forward in terms of this being, fishing not being just about putting food on the table, but also being a livelihood and being a way of life. So also with an important element of culture and heritage that is connecting deeply communities to the ocean and the rivers. And so, yes, this fight in the past 20 years has taken many shapes and form. We have been engaging in policy reform, which has brought us to the small-scale fishery policy, which was developed by the fishers together with government through a bottom-up process, and is now being implemented with many challenges that we maybe can talk about later. But the content of the policy, the nature of the policy is very much about ensuring that fishing as a tradition, as a culture, as a custom is being upheld. And it is about ensuring that fishing is playing a role in providing food and nutrition at local level, but also developing value chains that are centered and managed by fishing communities themselves, and importantly, including the role of women and youth. And so, yes, this has been quite central to the work. as well as in the past few years, since 2018 in particular, more and more we have found ourselves to have to look at what is happening in terms of the ocean governance at local level, but also globally, with the push for what has been called the blue economy or the ocean economy. So this idea that we have to look at the ocean as a new space of exploitation. So we have been seeing more and more of oil and gas developments happening in our ocean space, mining, industrial aquaculture, which has been put forward as the way to access fish for the future, and which is very concerning for us. And so more and more in the past few many years, we have to also start having a focus not just on what we put forward as a proposal in terms of policy and governance to make small-scale fisheries part of the food system or enhance the role of fisheries in the food system, but also how do we actually have to protect our ocean territories from exploitation for the profit of the few instead of the benefits for the many. So the way we work, well, Masifundise is an NGO, and we work very closely with a community-based fishers organization called Coastal Links. But we use mainly three strategies or approaches. The first being capacity building, so engaging in processes at local, provincial, national level of sharing information, but also horizontal knowledge processes where fishers are also exchanging among themselves and learning from each other, and engaging in political education processes that are equipping us and the fishers in Coastal Links to engage in all these different processes and demand their rights. The second approach we use is participatory action research, where we engage in processes of research with fishing communities that are really meant to be about building evidence to engage in policy processes meaningfully, and also to map the traditional fishing grounds, territories, as a way to resist ocean and land grabbing. So all the research that we do is not for academic purposes in that sense. It's about creating tools for fishing communities and their organization to take actions. And lastly, we also work through advocacy. And the way we try to engage in advocacy is to always create platforms for the fishers to be able to engage with decision makers directly and to participate in governance processes. So one of our key demands when it comes to the governance of fisheries in the ocean is to say, we need to have co-management, so to have communities together with the state, sitting together and making decisions about the management of fisheries together. So yes, these are the way we work, and yes, I think
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Also, obviously, you're also bringing in the fact that there's lots of tensions in this work, because I think Fisher Folk's work has to be groundbreaking, because for the longest time, it's just been a capitalized corner where the fish in the store, in the supermarket, is from high brands. Not high as in more nutritious, but it's from industrious brands, right? So I do sense that it's really like uncharted territories, but also quite work that needs strength and resilience from you guys as Masifundise and Coastal Links. So maybe if we look at South Africa as a nation where you guys are functioning, what's your coverage? And then do you have immediate partners or, like support networks in the region and beyond? How's that shaped out?
Yes, so in South Africa, we work in 5 of the 9 provinces. We work in all the 4 coastal provinces, being Northern Cape, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. And we also work in the Free State because we also do engage with inland fishing communities. We work at national level, and we engage, and indeed partnerships and alliances is key for us to ensure that we are able to do this work. And so we engage in different partnerships at South African level with organizations also working for food sovereignty and agroecology, as well as academic researchers. For example, we work very closely with the Institute for Poverty, Land and Agrarian Studies at the University of Western Cape, as well as the Environmental and Geography unit at the University of Cape Town. And in terms of yes, and we also work closely with movements engaging in land struggles, for example. So, for example, with the Trust for Community Education and Outreach, the Rural Women Assembly, and also Climate Justice Charter Movement, many other organizations in the context of both food justice and environmental justice and climate justice. We are also members of the World Forum of Fisher People, which is an international movement representing small-scale fishers and fishers all over the world. And so through that, we engage in different processes at regional level, but also importantly, we historically have been quite involved at the international level, and especially working with the International Planning Committee for Food Sovereignty. For example, in the development of the International Small-Scale Fishery Guidelines, which are the first instrument at the international level that is providing direction for states to implement policies and governance of small-scale fisheries that is aimed at poverty reduction and realizing food security. So these are our key networks that we engage with, and yes, we are and where we are active. And indeed, our approach is always to say that we have to work in solidarity with each other, because we need to stand together as fishers, farmers, other people's movements to build these alternatives that are based on sovereignty, agroecology, and justice for all.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks, Carmen. You know, I'm here just listening, and you've been talking a lot about food sovereignty and small-scale fishers. And in all the other dialogues that I've heard, we are really like seeing a strengthening of the word food sovereignty. And their strategies also that you shared. So what does food sovereignty mean to a small-scale fishing community? Just if you have one that you can single out, because I guess my question is going towards you are implementing capacity building, which is slowly empowering communities to have a voice, to say no, sometimes without even marching in the street, but the knowledge with them becomes the power to say no. And including the power, the participatory action research. I'm totally thrilled that you're doing that in the fishing communities, because we are also doing that with land communities, cropping communities. So what are those highlights? How are these pieces building together towards food sovereign fisher communities?
Yes, thanks, Precious. I think that's a very important question, because one thing that I would say is that when we look at the governance of fisheries, both at local, national, but even global level, one thing that has been always striking for me is to see how oftentimes fisheries is sort of looked at as something that needs to be managed more from an environmental perspective, or fishery stocks perspective, as opposed to looking at fish as food, as a central part of how people secure their food security and nutrition, but also importantly as a key pillar of people's culture in the communities we work with. And so for us, this idea of food sovereignty in fishing is central. In fact, is the name of our program. We talk about advancing food sovereignty in small-scale fisheries, because what we're seeing is there is a tendency of from a decision maker's perspective to look at fishing as a commodity as opposed to actual food. And so our work is really very much about trying to emphasize all the different pillars of food sovereignty in the way we understand and we engage in fisheries. So, when we're talking about focusing on food for people, we are saying food should be accessible to fishing communities, and it shouldn't be seen as something that, when fishing is landing at the harbor should be taken straight away to, Cape Town, for example, to be processed and to be sold in supermarkets or even exported. It should be something that contributes to food access at local level. We are also saying that small-scale fishers as food providers should be valued. This includes not just the fishers and the fishermen themselves that go out at sea, but also women involved in mussel harvesting and in the pre- and post-harvesting activities, as well all the people that are involved in the value chain. But also when we're saying that we should value food providers in terms of fishing, we're speaking about valuing the customary practices that exist, the traditional way of exercising these livelihoods. We're talking about localizing food system and making decisions locally. So, for example, here, this idea of co-management and real co-management from the local level is something that is central to our work, and it's a current campaign for us to see co-management being implemented all over the country as the policy that we worked so hard for demands, as well as, when we're talking about building knowledge and skills and working with nature. One of the current areas of work that we have, it's about how do we actually think about agroecology in the context of fisheries. So this, for example, is something that it's quite important to me and to us at Massifundise, because when we're talking about, especially in this particular moment where we are seeing our biodiversity being destroyed. Every day we have new news about how the state of health of our oceans and our environment is declining every day. It is important for us to also really articulate and put forward how fishing communities themselves have solutions in terms of their knowledge and their practices that are about regenerating fisheries, that are about respecting the resources that we depend upon. And so for us, this is an idea where we are really trying to see, when we're talking about fisheries, how can we also talk about agroecology? Agroecology is not just about what happens on the land and the practices that we have on land, but it's also something that does connect with capture fisheries in terms of how, for example, we use different species to catch throughout the year, the practices that we have around the gears that we use, and then also the decision-making models that we can have in terms of how we actually do our fishing. So, for example, and so this is something that for me is quite important that we connect to also with other movements working on agroecology on land, and we learn from each other. So that we also bring that innovation that agroecology calls for, that is also based in traditional indigenous knowledge.
That's really awesome. Actually, just to comment quickly on agroecology and fisher folks, the African Alliance for Food Sovereignty Network, AFSA, They have a very strong collab with forest peoples, talking the Congo Basin, fisher folks, but for now I've been noticing mostly West African angle. So I think these blocks are building because, like we said earlier, food systems are not talking about land agriculture, because I think, and what causes fisheries to be left out is the limited definition of agriculture that we've been using from books, and but in essence, I think agriculture really includes the production of food and fiber from the earth's land and water. So fish comes in to be the food from the earth's waters. So I'm very excited. And maybe just to dive in, I know that last year you guys held a tribunal. So maybe to build on towards the story of the tribunal, which was, I think, from what I see online, remarkable. There's lots of recordings there too for people who may want to see it. You go to masifundise.com, yes?
.org.
.org. Okay, yeah. Okay. So we could talk about the challenges that farmers face alongside the tensions, which were blue economy, big ag, extractives, which is mining, policy gaps, and some natural phenomenons. But let's tackle the four. And how have you guys been weaving through those challenges?
Yes, thanks, Precious.
Sorry, I hope it's not a big question.
It is a little bit of a big question, but I will try to bring it together by saying, what we are experiencing, and I say we because I know that what we are facing on the ocean is very similar to what other communities are facing in their territories, in different geography. It's that we are facing an attack on our rights. I mean, we are living in the context of multiple crises where, we are facing climate change and biodiversity loss, and at the same time we are facing socioeconomic crisis. The cost of living is rising everywhere. We are at a specific conjuncture in our history, so that is, really putting us in a situation where we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to engage moving forward and build together to counter this, to resist this. And this is where, for us, the Fisheries Tribunal came in. After 25 years of engaging in processes around governance of oceans to emphasize and have the rights of fishers recognized, what we have been saying is we have won the struggle for recognition in terms of legislation and be recognized at that level, but we are still fighting the struggle for actual enjoyment of rights and human rights for fishing communities. And so in that sense, we also felt that, everyone that is in South Africa will know that we are a very litigious country and we often go to court, and that's also part of the prerogative, with the democratic transition, to say we have to go to our courts and to our constitution to demand our rights, and we have done so. But we also feel that the court processes are limiting in terms of what can be done. And so by saying we're going to have a Fishers People Tribunal, what we wanted to do was to really create a platform for fishers to speak themselves and share their testimonies on what is that is happening in the ocean and inland space when it comes to their rights, and to use this as an act of solidarity building, as an act of making ourselves visible. And indeed, now that it has been a year since we had the tribunal, we are also starting to see what that looks like in terms of taking the struggle forward and engaging in new fights, finding some renewed energy to indeed face and confront some of the challenges that are in front of us. And so, yes, the tribunal was really about making fishers visible and hear the stories from them directly. And we had a jury composed of experts from both national experts and international experts from a human rights perspective that actually helped us to think about what are the key issues that we need to take forward. And so we had the 6 cases that were presented. Indeed, as Rasha said, there is all the recordings and the documentation of the tribunal is available on our website. And the 6 cases that we looked at was really trying to touch on all the different challenges that fishers face, from policy gaps to looking at the lack of recognition of customary rights and the impact that has on people in terms of violence. Also, we also looked at extractivism, being mining, but also oil and gas developments that fishers have been, I would say, successfully opposing on the coastline in South Africa through different legal battles. But then we also looked at the issue of conservation, because what we also experience, it's the imposition of marine protected areas in a way that doesn't actually recognize or takes in consideration how local people and indigenous communities are actually part of those ecosystems. They also play a role in maintaining those ecosystems thriving. And then finally, we also looked at the impact that climate change is having on fishing communities, and in particular on fish women and mussel harvesters. And so through these cases, we try to, identify what are the shared issues that we are seeing along the coastline. And one of the findings, or some of the key findings from the jury, was to say that, a call for the South African government to start indeed embrace the livelihoods and life and cultures of fishing communities, not so much as something that needs to be limited, but something that needs to be supported and built upon to ensure that we have thriving communities, not just in coastal communities, but also that fishing can play a role in feeding people in South Africa, where we're also experiencing economic challenges. And every day we hear about malnutrition, we hear about limited access to food. And also really what the tribunal and the findings were celebrating the resilience of fishing communities, but also identifying how the interests of corporates, both at national and international level, have been prioritized over the interests of local communities, and therefore, again, a call to the South African government to act in respect of the South African Constitution and international human rights law, and to really support the development of fishing or small-scale fisheries, as opposed to exploitative use of the ocean spaces. So yes, I mean, I think that an important, I would say that the last thing I would say maybe here is to say that this process was very much about denouncing and about, it was emotionally taxing, because we have heard so many stories of human rights violation. But at the same time, it was a wonderful celebration of fishers' lives, cultures, and solidarities. We had many other organizations, civil society joining us. And this really, as I think one of the key results of doing the tribunal, was to really place in the fishers at the center of the fight for sovereignty and for climate justice in terms of in South Africa, but also globally. And as a result of that, we have seen some very great energy coming up. So even this week we have our national meeting, and we are really seeing a momentum building, where fishers are saying we have the power. We have to organize ourselves and take on these fights because, we also had many victories. 2 weeks ago, we were in the Constitutional Court hearing the case of the wild coast communities against Shell. And, our rights, or the rights that fishers have been so powerful that they are stopping corporate giants like Shell from exploiting our oceans resources. So this is a sign that if we work together and if we do bold on our rights, we can win, and we have to continue to push. Yes.
That is so fantastic. And there couldn't be a better ending to just summing up the work that you do. And also congratulations. I know it was in August last year, the tribunal, but look what it has done in confidence building and all the other small efforts around just giving fisher farmer confidence. I actually like the word fisher farmer because it doesn't separate them from the notion that they're also farming in the seas and the fresh waters of our world. So Carmen, talking about you, we're ending. A girl from Italy fishing community working with South Africa's landscape, including in the broader sense, fishing communities. How does your upbringing resonate to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that for me, it's now 10 years that I've been here in Masifundisa working with fishing communities, and yeah, I think that without knowing that this was the path in life, it has been a very interesting. Circle moment, to come back to what my origins is. I mean, I'm not from a fishing family, but I grew up in a fishing community, and yes, and I mean, in that I do recognize how the connection to the ocean that we have as a community back home really resonates. Again, the context is very different, and but at the same time many of the issues are the same, and so yes, I think that was what really resonated with me, and I think that also what it has been very beautiful on a personal level is to have found a home and been so welcome and connected to our fishing communities, the fishers themselves. It's really very, very proud. I'm very proud to say that I have been able to find a home in these wonderful communities that have welcomed me and embraced me and taught me so much. So I'm very grateful for all of them.
That's so beautiful. You find a home, and it's also because we are all looking for the same thing. The language, or a thing that we are all interested in, is thriving, sovereignty, freedom, and power to live our lives just the way it should be lived. So I'm very, very happy and super proud of the work that you are doing. In the few moments that we spent together, it wasn't a few, we stayed together in Brasilia here in June, gave me really a good window into how passionate you are about your work, the early hours where you were, just pushing, I have to do targets for Masifundis, I have to do this. So, I mean, that passion to me was quite palpable and quite commendable. So it's World Food Day. What's your message to women, to youths, to fishers, to land farmers? Yeah, just a simple World Food Day message.
Yeah, I mean, my message to to food producers in particular is to say thank you, and this is your day, it's your celebration, because without food there is no life, and so we have to continue to fight for food sovereignty. We have to continue to fight for agroecology, and we will win this fight if we are all standing together.
Thank you, Carmen. Oh, okay. This has been so beautiful. I can't even believe we made it. Almost didn't happen, but here we are. We've done it. You guys are busy having your national gathering coming up. All the best with it. May the best things come up for the following years from
Thank
this
you.
strategic gathering. We appreciate you, and yeah, cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Yeah.
For thousands of years, farmers in semi-arid areas have grown cereal crops such as sorghum and millet and developed clever strategies to cope with drought. Because most soils in West Africa have very little organic matter, many farmers sow their seeds in shallow pits filled with composted manure. In these so-called Zai planting pits, rainwater, organic matter and nutrients are concentrated exactly where the plants need them. But with a changing climate, the first rains of the rainy season have become even more unpredictable. If an early rain is followed by a long period of drought, germinated seeds easily die. Also, birds and insects feed on the planted seeds, so farmers have to sow again. Often children are requested to guard the family's fields after sowing. While they can chase birds, they can't chase insects. Some farmers even treat their seed with harmful chemicals.
We used to buy pesticides and mix them with seed before sowing. Anything that ate the seed would die. We women, especially those who are breastfeeding and the children, suffered. If seed remained and we brought it home, we had to keep it away from the children. If a hen ate it, she suffered. If an animal ate it, it got sick. With children, you have to be careful.
Doctors in rural areas are well aware of the dangers of treating seeds with pesticides.
Vous savez, avec nos mamans, bon, ils ne tardent pas en tout cas en voulant, par exemple, téter l'enfant.
You know, with our mothers, when they want to suckle their children, with the same hands that they use to handle the pesticides, they breastfeed their children. This can seriously affect the health of the child. We have received cases of vomiting, allergies, but pesticides can also have long-term effects on the person in question, such as heart disease, respiratory disease, and even death.
Des pathologies, pourquoi pas cardiaques, des pathologies respiratoires plus graves avec le temps.
In this video, we'll learn from innovative farmers in Burkina Faso how coating seed with natural ingredients can help to overcome these challenges. Birds and insects continuously search for grain to feed on. Interestingly, by changing the shape and color of your seeds, they no longer recognize them. For centuries, farmers in India have coated their seed with a slurry of cow dung. More recently, farmers in Burkina Faso have also begun to coat their seed, but by using a mixture of clay, compost and ash.
The advantage is that it protects our seed from enemies on the ground such as squirrels, rats, hedgehogs, guinea fowl, chickens, and enemies under the ground such as ants. This helps us even more to start sowing very early. We start the work before the rains. When the first rains come, we have already sown, so we don't have to worry about sowing anymore.
By coating your seed, you need only half the amount of seed, just 3 kilograms of sorghum seed per hectare, compared to 6 kilograms of uncoated seed. For 1 kilogram of seed, you need 4 kilograms of clay, 2 kilograms of compost, and 1 kilogram of ash. To coat your sorghum or millet seed, you need very fine dust-like material. Pound the clay, compost and ash into a fine powder. Put your seed in a basin or calabash and sprinkle some water over the seed to lightly moisten it. To dust the seed, you can first mix the 3 powdered ingredients, or you can add them one by one. Shake the basin a little, so the seed is coated all over. Again, sprinkle some water over the seed. Now add a bit more of the powder over the moist seed. Shake the basin for 3 minutes until all the seeds are fully coated. You need all 3 ingredients. The clay and compost coating allows the seed to breathe and stay alive. During the first rains, the clay and compost will absorb water quickly, and the coat will split open once the seed germinates.
Each element has a role to play. The clay is sticky. It coats the seed. The ash protects the seed from predators and has its nutrients. The manure provides nutrients that help the seed to grow well and be strong.
Place the coated seed on a tarpaulin to dry in the shade or sun. You can sow the dry coated seed the day after, or store it in a bag or jar for sowing later on. Because the seed is no longer eaten by birds and insects, you can sow your coated seed before the first rains. By coating your seed, you save seed and labor. Coated seed is larger and easier to handle, so you can drop just 1 or 2 coated seeds in each planting hole.
Before we did not coat the seed. We used a lot of seed and there was too much millet per hill. But now we have learned to coat the seed. We don't put a lot of seed in each pocket. We save seed and we don't need to go back to reduce the number of seedling per hill.
As coating large amounts of seed is time-consuming, the women cooperative in the village of Niesaga use a mechanical seed coater made by a local artisan. As the coated seeds are sieved afterwards, they are a similar size and therefore easier to handle during sowing. To convince other fellow farmers in their village, at the Farmer Field School, they've set up an experimental field. In the plot on the left, they've sown non-coated seed, while on the right, coated seed was used. Even after 1 month, the difference in crop establishment is clearly visible.
Now we can relax thanks to the coated seed. Nothing will destroy it. The millet doesn't look like the others. It roots well. Unlike with non-coated seed, at harvest the heads are not the same. The ripening of the grains is not the same. If there is a dry spell, the millet bends over quickly. But with the coated seeds, the plant establish well. They do not suffer from lack of water.
So what have we learned? Birds and insects often eat millet or sorghum seed in newly planted fields. By coating it with clay, compost and ash, the seed is disguised and safe from being eaten. Pound 4 kilograms of clay with 2 kilograms of compost and 1 kilogram of ash so it becomes dust. This is enough to coat 1 kilogram of seed. Slightly moisten the seed and dust it with the powder. Shake the seed until it's evenly coated. Moisten again and coat some more. Shake for a few minutes until evenly coated. Dry and sow the seed the next day or store in a bag for later sowing. A locally made seed coating machine can be helpful to coat larger amounts of seed in less time. The organic coat protects your seed from birds and insects and gives the young seedlings extra moisture and nutrients. All you need for a good start of your crop.
I would advise my fellow farmers to coat their seed. It's a great help and very beneficial. It helps us to start sowing very early. It preserves our health. It makes our work easier.
Ne tontumda na king tawre